This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name is Evan Jansen. The show is live. It's broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. Don't forget, we're also live on YouTube right now with our whole show available on demand on our YouTube channel. Now, we'll be in Mpumalanga shortly, where the Minister of Police, Nadine Clerco, is launching, well, a campaign against stolen goods ahead of the festive season. We look at the crisis facing Africa's elephants as poaching levels soar out of control almost throughout the entire continent. We'll conclude today with an interview with award-winning comedian Tats and Konzo a little bit later. But first, let's get the day's news from Katrina Miller.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrina Miller, and let's just take a look at the news making headlines this morning. The South African government has condemned a Taliban attack on a school in Pakistan which has killed 141 people, 132 of them children. The International Relations Department has labelled the attack in Peshawar as inhumane and barbaric. It says deliberate attacks against schools constitute a crime against humanity. South Africa has extended condolences to the people of Pakistan and will continue to support efforts to address terrorism. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, those killed are being laid to rest.
At 11 o'clock, we received information that he was injured. When we went there, we found his dead body.
We must act against these Taliban and fanatics because they have been coming after our kids. We should go after them.
They don't have the courage to fight the fighters. They are now attacking little children. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it is time to teach them a lesson once and for all.
Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has faced questions over the omission of the Sydney cafe gunman from a security watch list despite a long history of extremism and violence. The country is debating if and how similar attacks can be stopped in the future. Abbott says tough new security laws and the bail system in Australia fail to prevent the deadly hostage crisis. Back in South Africa, Eskom says 4 generating units that had collapsed at 3 of its power stations are now back online. The utilities warn that the power grid remains under strain. Yesterday, Eskom said the 3 units had collapsed due to technical faults and lightning strikes and warned of possible blackouts as a result.
At this stage, we are doing everything possible. We are using our emergency units, that is diesel and water, to make sure that we keep the lights on. If we do not get the necessary savings from our customers and also from our generating units, unfortunately, at some point, we'll have to load shed.
Traffic officials maintain a heavy presence on national roads. There were 16 crashes yesterday, claiming at least 2 lives. Traffic authorities in Limpopo have expressed concern over overloaded vehicles approaching the Beitbridge border post between Zimbabwe. Thousands of people are heading home for the festive holidays, and traffic has picked up between Polokwane and Beitbridge. And the Proteas play their first Test cricket since their victory over Sri Lanka in August, when they take on the West Indies in the first Test starting in Centurion today. It will be the first Test on home soil that captain Hashim Amla leads, and will mark the 10-year anniversary of the debuts of A.B. de Villiers and Dale Steyn, who made their Test debuts in 2004 against England at St George's Park on December the 17th. Amla is looking forward to the series, but said the hosts can't underestimate the Windies, who are ranked 7 places below them. Well, remember, all those top stories and more are all available on our Newsroom Facebook page. And then our journalists are all out all over the country. You can follow them on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Yevon, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Katrina. Now, the Minister of Police, Nadine Clerco, will today launch a campaign against stolen goods in Mpumalanga. The focus of the campaign is to remove the market for stolen goods and to unite society in a concerted effort to reduce this crime. Figures released by the South African Police Service shows an increase in residential robberies from 17,950 to 19,284 between April 2013 and March 2014, representing an increase of 7.4%. A new law to curb the selling of stolen goods was introduced in 2012. The Act intends to regulate the business of dealers in second-hand goods and pawnbrokers to combat the trade in stolen goods and promote ethical standards in the trade. Now, our colleagues in our Nelspruit office talked to the Minister, that's Police Minister Natalie Nhleko, a short while ago about the problem of stolen goods in South Africa, and this is what he had to say.
The campaign itself is largely about conscientizing ourselves at a societal level that it is the wrong thing to buy stolen goods. And it is wrong precisely because of a number of, maybe in medical terms call it side effects and so forth, that then germinate out of the activity itself. Now, if you buy something that is stolen, be it a television set or a DVD something or a cell phone or something like that, you must know that behind that item there's a human life lost, because in all probability you may find that murder would have been committed. You would also probably find that rape would have been committed. You would also find that maybe possibly serious injury, a maiming was also committed and so forth. So it's important to drive this point of consciousness actually at the level of members of communities that it is the wrong thing to buy stolen goods because that affects human lives. But I think the second point is that it's the fact that if you have the prevalence of stolen goods, that tends to also germinate negative tendencies in society. You will also have conflict in societies and so forth. I'm sure in certain areas you would have come across this thing where vigilantism just props up precisely because somebody would have been suspected to have stolen somebody's item and so forth in a local area, and all that people do is to beat somebody to death, and that in itself kills the question of positive relations at a community level. And so that's where the problem is, and that's why we're then saying it is just absolutely not morally correct for people to buy stolen goods. Well, no, this thing is life. I mean, you would know this thing. I mean, if you go to a taxi rank, there are common terms that are used. Lastly, and so on. Things like that, and stuff like that. So it's quite a big thing. But also the problem with it is that you find that it is something that, yes, individually and collectively affects us as communities and stuff, but it has also graduated to enter into the formal space, a formal business kind of space. Now, so you'll have pawn shops, you'll have second goods, sort of trading areas, for an example, be it your scrap metal and everything else and stuff like that. And that is posing a challenge that we need to review our Second-Hand Goods Act, for an example, to find a way to tighten some loopholes wherever they are. I mean, you would know, for an example, that not so long ago in this country, something almost that which we thought was impossible to happen happened. A 5-kilometer length of a railway line was stolen in the Eastland and so on. Now, there is no piece of metal anywhere in the world that is shaped like a railway track. Right? So clearly, a person who is a business person and running a scrap metal sort of business certainly knew that this is a railway track. And how come this thing is here, and why should I buy it and sell it eventually, and so on. So that's what the problem is. But then the overall problem is that then your economic activity is completely disrupted. Because for a period of time, your transportation of goods on that railway track just came to a sudden sort of halt and so forth. Now, that's why I'm saying that what is actually disturbing now is that it's something that has permeated into the social space, but also into the formal business space and so forth. And therefore, we need to make and mount quite a concerted effort to ensure that we actually kill the economic incentive out of the stolen goods issue. Look, it's going to be a multi-pronged kind of a approach. The one issue is that, yes, of course, when we catch you as the police having stolen, we'll have to arrest you. I mean, that we continue to do. But at a social level, it is also important that we drive the sense that don't even think about stealing, don't even think about buying stolen goods. I mean, it's something that has got to drive you. I mean, for an example, many of our people in this country, myself included, were never told by police that it is a wrong thing to steal. It is something that was cultivated at a moral level. As a child, when you grow up and so on, you knew stealing is the wrong thing to do. And therefore, if you needed to have something, either you were to ask and get something through somebody's permission who is the correct owner of such an item, for an example. So we need to go back to those kinds of basics. Society will be creating a fundamental mistake, for an example, to think that the issue of stolen goods and stealing generally and crime in general, it's a matter for police to sort out, because I think that would be so much of a narrow view. You need all angles to tackle a program of this magnitude. No, we are, and not only just bakkies, by the way, including the issue of stock. I mean, provinces in this country that are neighboring countries, for instance, you'll find that here in Mpumalanga, your rate of stock theft is pretty high, as opposed to inland, for an example. Or if you were to go to the Free State, you will also find that stock theft is pretty high because, cattle and stock of any form, they then just get driven over the border and so forth. Now, part of the strategy that we have developed and working on, during this festive season and beyond, is exactly the question of border management, which must also look into the question of stolen items being smuggled across the borders and so forth. But in that, you need a collaborative effort between the South African Police Service, the South African National Defence Force, Home Affairs, and other state entities, of course, in the whole question of border management, because it's true, I agree with you, that's an area that has got to be specifically sort of focused on in terms of stemming the tide of smuggling across our borders and so forth.
Well, that was Police Minister Nathi Mhleko talking about this campaign against stolen goods. And the message really is simple when you launch a campaign there today in Mpumalanga. Don't buy stolen goods this festive season. With every stolen product, there is a life lost associated with it. Simple message ahead of the festive season from the Police Minister. Now, Christmas celebrations differ from place to place and is also having a different meaning to different people. Christmas celebrations in Zimbabwe, though is at times a grand affair, but nevertheless it's observed with great excitement and great enthusiasm. It's also an unwritten tradition that celebration of the festival of Christmas starts off in Zimbabwe with a church service that's accompanied by Christmas carols and people in large numbers assembling at churches to be part of the various services. After service, it's time to visit friends, relatives, and close associates to wish each other. Now, our Zimbabwean correspondent, Shinga Nyoka, has been going around the country to see how Zimbabweans prepare for Christmas. She joins us on the line. Good morning to you, Shinga. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you, Eben.
Shinga, special time of the year. How are Zimbabweans preparing for the festive season?
Well, the Christmas and festive mood has already started. Even you can tell on the streets in the city centre, the streets are half deserted. A lot of the offices have closed down as people anticipate the festive season. We've already seen a surge in people at the Beitbridge border. A lot of the Zimbabweans that are working in South Africa traditionally travel back to the country once a year, and a lot of people are also doing their shopping, preparing to go out to the rural areas to spend their Christmas.
Shiga, is that how Zimbabweans celebrate? They go back to the rural areas, the alma mater, as it were, and does that come with huge traffic congestion and traffic volumes within the country like we have here in South Africa?
Well, specifically, you can see a lot of the congestion, a lot of the buses that go out into the rural areas at the bus terminus just on the outskirts of the city centre is traditionally a hive of activity. It's great for business, with a lot of the vendors making a lot of their money during this period, as well as a lot of the bus companies tend to hike their fees the closer you get to Christmas. A lot of people don't have the transport, don't have the private vehicles, and so this really is a busy time for buses. Many of the people that go out into the rural areas are doing so not just to see their friends and family, but also to farm. Zimbabwe is still a very agriculturally based economy. A lot of people survive on the food that they harvest from their rural plots, and so on a lot of the buses you'll see seeds, you'll see maize seeds, you'll see fertilizer, you'll see a lot of those inputs that people use to plow this festive season as we prepare for the rains to come.
And Shiga, how does the officials and how does the road traffic management agencies, how do they deal with the high volumes, with the high levels of traveling, and what sort of campaigns do they put in place to deal with this at this time?
Well, at this particular point, and this year is very different from previous years in the sense that government has set aside about $2 million, 20 million rands in funds to maintain and repair the roads. This is also, it's not just a busy time, but it's also a time when you have a lot of car accidents. And so what they're trying to do is to try to make sure that at least from their own side that the roads are as well maintained as possible so that they reduce the accidents. We have seen a lot of campaigns where they're advising people to check their vehicles, to check the condition of their vehicles before they leave. We also have an issue with the blood bank. Traditionally, this is a time when a lot of blood is required, so there's been an appeal for donation of blood. At this moment, we understand that the country only has a week's supply of blood, and they're saying that this is a very critical level. They normally need about 6 months, and during the holiday period, there's a likelihood that if they don't get more donors coming forward, that there will be a shortage of blood.
And where do Zimbabweans go to shop now the next week or so, Shingai? And also, what are the tourist areas that will be the busiest during this time?
At this particular time, a lot of the locals cannot afford to go to some of your major tourism destinations like Victoria Falls and Kariba and Great Zimbabwe, especially given this the economic problems that people are facing. There's been a lot of company closures. There's been a lot of retrenchments. People are not being paid. Some of them haven't received their bonuses. And so from the people that we've spoken to, the focus is really on trying to save money this Christmas so that they can buy uniforms and shoes and textbooks for the children at the beginning of the year. It really appears to be a very muted Christmas. One of the advantages that we've had over the last couple of years is the imports from China. We have a lot of shops which sell a lot of very heavily discounted goods, and that's where a lot of the business is. There isn't a lot of business with your major retailers because people simply want to save their money for the most important things. And so really this Christmas is very different from previous Christmases.
Finally, before I let you go, Shingai, we're doing a special focus today on elephant poaching in Southern Africa. Before you go, just set the scene for us in Zimbabwe. How is the country dealing with elephant poaching, and is it as rife as it is elsewhere on the continent at the moment?
Even it is as rife as it is across the continent. You'll know that Zimbabwe has a black rhino's population that's one of the most endangered animals in this country. We've seen a decline in terms of elephant poaching. You'll remember that there was an incident last year where about 100 plus elephants were poisoned with cyanide. But what we've seen recently is a response not just from government but also from the private sector with donations of vehicles and cash to assist the national parks to monitor the national parks, and so really it appears to be on the decline. But we've seen spikes that are just very unprecedented and surprising. But really at this point it seems as if it's under control.
Chinga, thank you very much for joining us. Chinga Nyoka coming to you on the line from Zimbabwe, talking at that time about elephant poaching. We'll deal with that in a whole segment a little bit later after the break. Also, Christmas celebrations well underway, festive season traveling well underway in Zimbabwe, much like the rest of South Africa and the continent, one would think. But let's have a quick look at your tweets. What are you talking about at SABC Newsroom? Yasir Ali Shah says, I don't know how to start my day. I can't stop thinking about the victims of the Peshawar attack. Yes, 141 people killed. 132 of those children. Really? Procrastinator says, Peshawar attack, we live to see such an unfortunate day, and if we don't unite to fight, we'll face yet another inhuman tragedy. Yes, it is inhuman, absolutely. Prachi Swan says, it's really sad that cruel Taliban has taken the lives of 132 young, innocent souls. Rest in peace, victims of the Peshawar attack. Death of humanity, she says. Tumbleweed says, may all those innocent souls rest in paradise, talking about the Peshawar attack. Mima says, we should be thankful for our education because people are getting killed for going to school in some countries. Stop it, she says, talking about the Peshawar attack. Yes, it's really a worrying, very concerning issue. But let's take a look at how the world is looking at this. Most international papers, of course, looking at the Taliban school attack in Peshawar, which has been described as the deadliest slaughter of Pakistanis in years. There you see the Times in Europe as a picture of the grieving families of those students on the front page. Papers in Spain have similar images on their front pages today as they look at that same story. And you'll see the Daily Mirror there going with the slaughter in the classroom. This is 141 people were killed yesterday, 132 children in that deadly attack by the Taliban in the city of Peshawar. Meanwhile, the South African government has condemned the attack. The International Relations Department has labelled the attack in Peshawar as inhumane and barbaric and constitutes a crime against humanity. South Africa has extended condolences to the people of Pakistan and will continue to support efforts to address terrorism.
High school senior Abdul Azam Afridi should have been spending the coming New Year thinking about graduation. Instead, he's being buried, one of at least 130 students who died in Tuesday's killing spree by the Pakistani Taliban at a school in Peshawar run by the military.
At 11 o'clock, we received information that he was injured. When we went there, we found his dead body.
In Pakistan's largest city, Karachi, supporters of a political party hold a candlelight vigil. Most of the students at the school are children of army officials. The Taliban say they targeted the campus because the government targets their women and families. We want them to feel the pain, a Taliban statement said after the attack. As a nation mourns, politicians are angry, even vengeful.
We must act against these Taliban and fanatics because they have been coming after our kids. We should go after them.
They don't have the courage to fight the fighters. They are now attacking little children. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it is time to teach them a lesson once and for all.
Tuesday's bloodbath struck at the heart of Pakistan's military establishment. Its army chief says the assault creates new resolve to eliminate the insurgents for good. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif echoed that statement. We'll take revenge, he said, revenge for each and every drop of blood that was spilled today.
Well, before we go to an ad break, let's just have a look at what's happening across the country today. In Johannesburg, Nathaniel Katleho Mboko appears in the Boksburg Magistrates Court in connection with the murder of 3-year-old Cuban Van Wyk. We stay in the City of Gold. SARS Deputy Commissioner Ivan Pillay and Strategic Planner Peter Richter will contest their suspensions in the Labour Court. And in Pretoria, the capital, 6 men are expected to appear for the possession of gold worth 23 million rand in the North Gauteng Magistrates Court. And then, of course, the first test between South Africa and the West Indies is expected to get underway at 10:30 a.m. this morning, yes, in Centurion, yeah, in Gauteng. We'll keep you updated how that match develops, of course, on all of our sporting platforms on this channel. This is Newsroom, though. We'll be back with you shortly.
It could be a gloomy Christmas for many South Africans whose jobs are on a knife's edge.
But the concern this time around is that there's certainly a spike and all sectors of the economy face risk.
Solidarity is involved in 45 different retrenchment exercises, and it cuts across all sectors.
While most retrenchments are expected in the mining and manufacturing sectors, analysts say the public sector will not escape.
So people are now sitting on their hands because the future is very uncertain.
Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Zoom into Africa. This is Senegal. The president is Mr. Macky Sall. Senegal withdrew from the Mali Federation on 20 August in 1960. The population is more than 13 million people. One of the major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Now, reports from Save the Elephants and the Aspinall Foundation show that the wholesale price of raw elephant tusks has tripled in the last 4 years, and this has sparked booming trade in smuggled ivory that's driving the unsustainable killing of elephants across Africa. Recently, our Newsroom producer, Nin Dormel, sat down with Sean Hensman, founder of the Rory Hensman Elephant Research Unit, to talk about the work the unit does and plans, well, in the pipeline to help us tackle the problems that we have with poaching.
As poaching, conflict and habitat destruction continue to threaten Africa's elephants, we all have a part to play in ensuring these precious animals are protected. This is also one of the reasons why the Rory Hensman Elephant Research Unit was started at the Adventures with Elephants, and why it is a dedicated elephant research centre devoted to understanding elephants better and to ensure these animals have a place in our ever-changing world. Now, joining us today in studio to talk about the work this unit has done and plans on doing is Sean Hensman, founder of the Rory Hensman Elephant Research Unit. Sean, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
If I could just start with, when exactly was this unit started, and why is it so important that humans always try and understand these animals better?
And the unit was started just a few months ago, really. We've done a lot of research in the past, but my father unfortunately passed away, and that's why it was set up in his memory. And the reason for this unit is to try and understand elephants a lot better, so that as pressures mount against elephants, we can provide space and provide a reason for them to be here into the future.
And the research that you look at, it focuses on different fields. What are those fields?
Well, we're looking at sort of anti-poaching. We're looking at biodetection, using the elephant to smell out explosives or drugs or diseases, things like that. We're looking at welfare, so we're trying to help elephants in captive scenarios to live longer, live better lives, and that sort of thing. We are looking at communication, so vocalization of elephants and things like that. And then one of the main ones is human-elephant conflict resolution. We're trying to find ways that people and elephant can live together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually just read this morning that conservationists have warned that the ivory trade, and especially Africa, is getting completely out of hand. How is South Africa's elephants targeted?
Well, so far, touch wood, our elephants seem to be okay. They have had reports of a couple of elephant being poached in Kruger. The first two were not so long ago, a couple of months ago. And as less elephants happen further up north, we're going to get more pressure down here. We're trying to, we need to be prepared for that. Same as what happened with the rhino. The same is going to happen here.
And why this boom, if we can say that, in ivory trade?
The major pressures from China. As their economy strengthens, they've got a bigger middle class, and all those sorts of people want to have ivory and rhino horn in their, in their possession. And it's a status symbol, amongst other things. So, yeah, that's where the pressure is coming from, and there's a lot of it.
And there's so much we have to do, and I actually understand that your unit, or this unit, has started gathering money for the poaching, anti-poaching. Tell us about that.
So what we're trying to do is just trying to find ways of, or innovative ways of trying to stop poaching. So we're working on smart collars with elephant, we're working on smart fencing and those sorts of things, which aren't physical barriers, but they're able to monitor an elephant basically from Cape Town to Cairo. And hopefully we can stop poaching out of that. So that's where we're looking for the funds.
And please tell us, you'll be presenting the research of this unit at the International Elephant Foundation's conference that will be held in Sri Lanka next year.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going to happen there.
So at that conference, there'll be about 300 delegates. They're from all over the world, and we're trying to find innovative ways to prevent poaching and to stop exactly what I was mentioning earlier, human-elephant conflict. One of the major areas that the 8 major areas that have elephant populations are the rural communities. And at the moment, they don't see any benefit in having those elephant populations in their backyard. So we're trying to find ways of the rural people, benefiting from elephant and actually wanting to live with them into the future. And that's the main aim of what we're trying to do there.
Yeah. Well, Sean, best of luck with that. And we really hope that you can make a change with the research that you will be presenting there.
Thank you. So do we.
All right. Evan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Janina. As we've heard there, the demand for ivory and habitat loss are the two main historical factors behind the decline of the African elephant. If drastic conservation measures are not taken, elephants may become locally extinct in some parts of the continent within the next 50 years. Now, in studio with us to have a bit of a chat on the state of elephants in South Africa, and the world, we are joined by our very own Paul Tsietse Monare. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Very good morning, Evan. Thank you.
We see this kind of thing in the media. We've just heard that interview of the decline of elephants in Africa. How bad is the situation really now, Paul?
You know, I actually think people don't take it very seriously because they think elephants are just one of those dormant animals that are just roaming around, and we think they're there, but they're actually not. If you think about in the 1930s, that's around 80 years ago, we had over 7 to 10 million elephants, in Africa alone, and over the world we had even more. Now, we only have just under 300,000. That's like a big loss. That's major. Between 1980s...
less than 5% of what it was.
Exactly. Yeah, between 1970s and 80s, every single year we were losing around 80,000 elephants every single year. Those are really huge numbers, and only because of the ivory demand that has grown. We heard in the package just earlier on, the ivory demand has just grown. The people are just paying money for elephant trunks and tusks, and it's just incredible. And if you think about it, the Loxodonta africana, that's the African elephant, in the next 50 years or so, even less, they could be extinct in almost 50% of the African continent. And if you think about it, the African elephant back in the 1930s could be seen in over 40 of the countries that we have in the continent. Now, imagine some places. Imagine here in South Africa, no elephants at all. So, it's quite a drastic issue now.
Yeah, it is very drastic. But we always hear about the plight of the rhino and so forth, but it seems as if the plight of elephants could be even worse than that of the rhinos. Would that be alarmist if I say that?
Yeah, no, I think it should be. You know, I mean, the rhinos, yes, we've seen how really terrible they've been poached and how they're dying off, and people are really paying attention to them. And I think it should be the same with elephants as well, because the state now is becoming even more than the rhinos. We've lost, like we mentioned just now, we lost so many in such a short period of time, and also the gruesome manner in which they're being poached is also something that's also, you know, it's inhumane, basically. I don't think something like that should be happening. It's really, really, you know, tragic that if you think about it, I don't have children yet, but if I have children, my children next 15 or 20 years from now might not even have elephants here in South Africa to see.
That is a very scary stat if you look at it that way. Now, apart from the obvious ivory, tell us about the importance of elephants within the ecosystem. They always get a bad rap that, you know, they're the ones who destroy trees and they eat too much and all that sort of stuff. But within the ecosystem, tell us about the value that they add.
That's exactly what I did when I heard about these stories about elephants. I just thought, but elephants are just elephants anyway. They're big, they fill up space, they break trees down. You know, we had one in the Kruger recently toppling over a car, and I thought, why do we need elephants anyway? They're just big dinosaurs that we don't really need. But if you think about it, quite crucial for the ecosystem. And the soil compaction, you know, you don't really think about it, and you just think it's just the normal thing. I mean, if a car drives over the soil, it gets compact. If you have big rocks, if you've got a lot of animals running around, you know, that you get. But elephants are very crucial when it comes to that. Elephants are actually crucial in creating little small dug out holes, you know, from just walking around. And those actually create pockets to keep water, rainwater or just a runoff. And that's also very important when it comes to other smaller animals that need pockets of water over long distance of areas. And that is also created by elephants. We find that a lot near lakes or near rivers or also in very dry areas. Elephants are also very good at digging out deep underground water. And elephants can dig that out for other animals to use. Elephants break down thorn bushes and that make it a little bit more that could actually be used to fertilize the soil. And also, you know, they're big dungs as well. They're big droppings, very crucial when it comes to fertilizing soils. And there are also some plants that actually cannot sprout without going through the digestive system of an elephant. So,
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing to hear. You spoke about the elephant tipping over the car. We've just found it there. There you have there you have that incident. But elephants get a bad rep always. But just tell us, what can the man in the street, the person at home, what can they do to make a contribution?
Okay, before you go there, I mean you've taken selfies, videos of just about everything. You see somebody drowning, before you help them, you take a video of them first and then, you know, upload it. That's basically what happened there. You know, the guys saw a big elephant, a male elephant coming in, then they thought, hey, let's take a couple of shots, let's take videos. And what any guide would tell you is that, you know, just back away slowly or stop the car, switch it off, let the elephant pass. Because the elephant will never really attack unless it feels threatened. Yes. That's exactly what happened there. I don't think the elephant really meant to go out and attack the person. It felt a bit threatened. Now back to what you can do as a normal person. I mean, if you look at WWF, the work that they've been doing is basically creating areas, demarcated areas to protect animals, especially animals that are endangered animals. If you can get those zones to protect them, it can get much bigger. And that means habitat loss will not be an issue. And when habitat loss is not an issue, that means people are not an issue. People are not there to move out or sort of scare off the elephants. Then they'll have more space to live in, to breed in, and that's also very good for that. So let us not mess with the habitat of the elephants. That could be number one. Forget taking selfies at the Kruger National Park when an elephant is coming by. You know, that's it's quite a big thing, and that could also lead to human life loss, and that will indirectly also lead to the elephant being put down.
And of course, don't buy any ivory. Don't buy any jewels with ivory, any jewelry with ivory in it.
That is,
right, Paul?
yeah, that is the most obvious one of them all. I mean, why do you need tusked or ivory stuff in your house? I mean, leave that for the elephants and let's go watch them at the nature park or nature reserve or even at the zoos.
Paul, thank you for joining us today and bringing us a sober view on this. Well, it's a real sensitive issue on the continent. We're losing our elephants at an alarming rate because of poaching. But let's have a look at your tweets now. Which story has... Mzgizi Michael says, so many people turn blind eyes to inequality in our country. EFF is the solution, says Mzgizi. That is his opinion. Of course, beware. Let the truth be told by our leadership. Poverty won't end if our mindset is still the way it is currently, says Spiwe. Kumbutso, EFF Assembly, as much the land is an issue that the current policy failed, land grabbing is not a solution, says Kumbutso. William says, I think Mr. Malema is now trying to hold the lion by its tail by trying to close down the minds of the mafias, EFF Assemblies. Those are some of your views, of course, here on SABC Newsroom. At SABC Newsroom, that's where you can interact with us on Twitter. But let's go to our Facebook page now, where you also can upload your views. That's the page that you see there. And today, you'll see that traffic authorities in Limpopo have expressed concern over overloaded vehicles approaching the Beitbridge border post with Zimbabwe. Then you'll see the Democratic Alliance has called on Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa to provide clarity on the recent load-shedding threat. This is rolling blackouts on the cards this festive season after Eskom lost 4 generating units. And you'll see that the South African government has condemned the Taliban attack on a military school in Pakistan that has now killed 141 people. You can find all those stories and a whole lot more on our Newsroom Facebook page. Of course, sabc.co.za is where you can come for all the latest breaking news. Time for a short break. We'll be back with Newsroom shortly.
Ja, de paar bezig. Kom.
Hello and welcome back here with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just take a look at the top stories this morning. The South African government has condemned a Taliban attack on a school in Pakistan, which has killed 141 people, 132 of them children. The International Relations Department has labeled the attack on Peshawar as inhumane and barbaric. It says deliberate attacks against schools constitute a crime against humanity. South Africa has extended condolences to the people of Pakistan and will continue to support efforts to address terrorism. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, those killed are being laid to rest. Eskom says 4 generating units that had collapsed at 3 of its power stations are now back online. The utilities has warned that the power grid remains under strain. Yesterday, Eskom said the 3 units had collapsed due to technical faults and lightning strikes and warned of possible blackouts as a result. And the Proteas play their first test at cricket since their victory over Sri Lanka in August when they take on the West Indies in the first test starting Centurion today. It will be the first test on home soil that Captain Hashim Amla leads and will mark the 10-year anniversary of the debuts of A.B. de Villiers and Dale Steyn, who made their test debuts in 2004 against England at St George Park on December the 17th. Amla is looking forward to the series but said the hosts can't underestimate the Windies, who are ranked 7 places below them. Remember, all those top stories and more are all available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can then also keep up to date and follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrina. Now, recently, some of South Africa's youngest and hottest comedy acts entered the Montreux Comedy Festival that has, over the past 25 years, become the biggest comedy festival in mainland Europe. after cracking some jokes alongside many other international acts. Mzansi's very own Tats and Konzo walked away as the first ever South African winner on the 7th of December. Now, the funny man is with us. Tats, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir. You called me hot on air. I love it.
Oh, a hot comedy act, I suppose.
Oh, hot like funny or hot like...
Yeah, not hot as in sexy. Hot as in a very in-the-moment comedy act.
I see.
Hot as in now.
Okay. I got you. Thank you for having me, man. It's such fun being here.
Fantastic. Congratulations, though, is in order, I suppose. Tell us about your decision to enter Montreux and give us the experience that you went through.
I think it was an international festival. So I think the thing with comedy is you know until you don't know until you really know if like you can crack it overseas.
Yeah.
Like in theory, you know your material is good. In theory, you know that it's pretty world class. But until you actually see it alongside people from outside of Joburg and Cape Town and Durban, which is pretty much where South African comedy is at the moment, you never really know. So when I saw the chance to go, I said, let me go find out for real.
And the experience?
So much fun. Such a pretty city. Like there's palaces there.
Yeah.
Palaces on mountains and snow. It was like Hansel and Gretel and Shrek lived there.
And you were cool in the cold? You were, I mean, there's normally the view that, you know, our guys from Africa,
I packed too much.
Oh, you packed too much?
Like when we landed, it was like, why are these guys... It was like we were really, really African.
Okay, cool. Talking about African, it seems as if African comedy and African comedians at the moment are doing quite well internationally. You know, we've got the likes of yourself, of course, and the Trevor Noahs and these kind of people making real inroads internationally and with big broadcasters as well. Why do you think is it that South African comedians are suddenly starting to step up internationally a little bit?
I don't think I think we being exposed. I mean, I'll tell you a story. When we were driving from the airport to the festival, we had an American comic who was in the car with us.
Yeah.
So we're talking comedy and what comedy is like in South Africa and what comedy is like in America. And obviously it's light and day. So I think in the conversation, he had a picture of how good we were because we were so far behind in terms of how much comedy is here.
Yeah.
Then he saw us on stage the first night and he was like, you know when someone congratulates you, but you can see in their eyes they can't believe what they just... It was like we were unicorns that were on stage doing comedy.
Amazing.
He was literally like, I can't believe what I just saw. So people don't really know what we have here.
Talking about what we have here, yesterday we had the Day of Reconciliation here in South Africa. It's a big day for us at times. It feels as if our country can be so divided with the kinds of incidents we often see here in South Africa. Do we laugh enough as a nation, and do we have that capacity to laugh at ourselves sometimes when it's needed?
Man, I think we laugh because we're divided. I think it's just the only way to not kill each other, literally, is to just laugh. I really think yesterday showed that even, you know, when we have days of reconciliation and Heritage Day, for me, sometimes it actually shows how much work we have to do. Because it's supposed to be, you know, Day of Reconciliation is such an announcement of reconciliation. But we still at the attempt of it. So
it's in our hands, though, it's in our hands, says Nelson Mandela. What's the worst thing people can do when they come up to you? Is it like, Tats, tell us a joke there?
That is the worst thing.
Is that the worst thing?
That's the worst thing an interviewer can do.
Is that the worst thing an interviewer could do to you?
Absolutely. And I don't know why, I don't know, this guy, you are not winning a news award ever. I don't know why people do it because, yes, I'm a comedian and I tell jokes, but like when they see you, for example, they don't say, tell us the news. If I'm a gynecologist, they don't come up to me and go,
tell us the weather.
You know, so I don't know why when it's a comedian, they go, tell us the news. You know, if I was a math teacher, I wouldn't say count.
Yeah, but you know, I suppose people, we all fancy ourselves, I suppose. There's funny men in the end, and then everyone says like, this guy, what does he know?
People think it's easy when they see us. They think, oh, I did that at the office on Monday, and people laughed because I was so funny. But then when you go on stage, and people have paid money and expect you to be funny, completely different story.
Yeah, that's true. That's where the family and the work thing comes in. But where can people get to see your work? Where are you at the moment?
Oh man, it's the end of the year, so like everybody else, I'm about to take a break. But Friday and Saturday, we are in Nelspruit. I think it's Mnotweni Casino in Nelspruit. I'm there with David Gao, a guy named Skumba, very funny guy named Skumba, and another funny dude that I'm friends with, Mojak. So Nelspruit, get your tickets at CompuTickets. It's my last gig of the year. It should be a lot of fun.
Well, that's fantastic for you to join us today. I was going to ask you to end on a high, but you know you did the business there first. So
thank you, Eppen.
Thank you for joining us, and congrats on winning the Montreux Festival Award. Really a big international award. One of South Africa's youngest and hottest comedy acts. Tassin Konzo, thanks for joining us. He's in Nelspruit over the weekend, if that's where you want to go. Well, that's where we wrap it today. Reconciliation Day celebrations at Ngome, Northern KwaZulu-Natal will be live on SABC 2 and News 24 from 10:30. That's not right. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following day. We also stream live on YouTube at that time with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.
In the morning, son.
Good job, mate.
The personal experience.